Well, my opinion is that certainly you can. We have good friends as brothers and sisters in the faith who work in the tax department of the government. There's in the book of Titus, his name Zenos, beginning with a Z, who was apparently a civil lawyer. I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with working for a valid part of the governmental system. We had a very good friend who was an environmental officer, went around inspecting tires. I see nothing wrong with that at all. Now, if it's a question then of having to be involved in killing others, one might have very serious thoughts about that, because from our point of view, Jesus was not involved in the military. Now, that's not to say that he will be nonviolent when he comes back, because we know from Luke 11 there, the parable of the man who went off to get the kingdom and come back, we know that he's going to kill his enemies. So God is certainly in the business of violence at God's time. And for right now, he's allowed the state to bear the sword. And the state does not bear the sword in vain, Paul said. We should be subject to what the policeman tells us to do, subject to the laws of the land, provided, of course, they don't conflict with the laws of God. There was a case where midwives refused to kill the babies, and they were objecting on conscience grounds. Daniel, was asked, and his friends were asked to worship the image, and they refused. So there is a point at which you should not work for the government. But as I understand it, there's absolutely nothing wrong in doing that part of government service, which is perfectly valid, in fact, is a blessing, keeping us all in order. So the government has its very special activity, and I think you can, in good conscience, be part of that. That would be my view. When I was at Bethany Seminary getting my master's in theology, this was the Church of the Brethren. They were conscientious objectors, and they were part of the Anabaptist movement, Mennonite type of faith.
So going back to the radical
Reformation, that's the third wing of the Reformation, not the Roman Catholic mainstream, not the Protestants, but the radicals. They went beyond Protestantism and objected often to fighting. I learned the other day that the United Pentecostal Church also takes a conscientious objector view. If you were interested in it, at our site, restorationfellowship.org, I wrote a paper when I was in the seminary there getting my master's in theology, and I called it Suicide in the Church Must Stop. Church suicide must stop. The strongest argument that I could think of was that Christians really ought not to kill each other. Almost inevitably in international war, believers on both sides of the divide will be believers. They remain believers, but they're killing each other. Now, why is it that we do not want the clergy to bear arms? Think deeply about that. What are we saying? It seems obscene that the clergy in one army would be fighting the clergy in another. But is that really not to admit that Christians taking the lives of other believers, who may be innocent victims, by the way, the bomb you drop on them,